Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and welcome to Explore Your Shadow. Today I want to talk about sexuality because it's a subject that I haven't really talked about for quite a long time, and I think it would be great for me to just share what's happening with me, and also to talk a bit about polyamory and monogamy and my entire vision of sexuality nowadays. When I started this channel, I was actually thrilled with the power that BDSM had over healing sexual trauma. And this fascination actually came from my own experience. BDSM worked miracles on my personal trauma, and it actually healed tons of it. So if we can talk about how it all started for me, what I've discovered, what was happening in the last couple of years is it's actually magnificent. So I don't know if a lot of you know my background, but I have been trained and went to therapy, all in the sphere of body-oriented psychotherapy, or some of you may know it as vegetotherapy. This form of therapy is focused more on the body and working with the body than working with the mind, even though we do still talk a lot. But we don't just talk, we do physical movements, and in that way, we access parts of ourselves, especially parts of our body where the trauma has been stored. This form of therapy is, I can't praise it enough. Um, of course, throughout the years, and having in mind that I started with this form of therapy when I was around 23, and the first reason why I went to therapy itself was because I was very depressed, and I wasn't your type of a person that would look for the answers outside. I was more of a person that believed in the fact that I can heal pretty much anything about me myself with the help of a professional. So I've seen my mom wither away on antidepressants, so that was absolutely no option for me. So when I started with therapies, actually my whole world changed. My perception on the world changed. My perception of my family changed. My perception of myself changed. It saved my life. It made me a completely different person, and I can pretty much thank body-oriented therapy for most of the things I have today. I went forward and I started the education for the therapist. I did a lot of other things as well. So I'm a classically trained singer. I have my degree for that. I have a degree for a yoga teacher. I'm at the moment doing Kundalini yoga and Tantra. And I have always been a person that had no peace. I always had to discover things, and I was always curious about what moves another human being, and also have been very interested in society. One of my the things that I never pursued, but I was very into sociology and just analyzing the society. Um, but I managed to do so through therapy and through dealing with other human beings and even just helping my friends and helping myself. So coming back to the topic of sexuality and the topic of BDSM, the topic of polyamory. 4 or 5 years ago, I was very passionate about using these things to actually I thought they were great movements for society. And I have to say now, 4 or 5 years in, I was gravely mistaken. Um, Concerning BDSM, it is an amazing tool once it's used by professionals and with the help of therapy, because in order to understand BDSM, you need to get into the core of trauma. So for me, and I can only talk about my personal experience because I don't want to touch upon my clients' experiences because that is confidential. I actually, through the use of BDSM, I accessed my root trauma. And my root trauma was this. When I was growing up, the sort of confidence and reliance on your parents is almost sacred. My parents were living in a very dysfunctional marriage, and my father was your typical psychopath, and my mom was your typical victim. And the relationship I had with my mother was very close. And the relationship with my father was also very close in the first 5 or 6 years of my life. And this trust was broken at a certain stage of my life. And in order to save myself, I had to build walls. That was the only option at that point. So if I didn't build the walls to separate myself from the hurt that I was receiving from my parents, I probably would have killed myself. And this I attempted at a certain stage in my life. So as I was growing up, the walls remained, and the walls followed me throughout every single contact I had in my life. It followed me through all my love relationships. It followed me through all my friendships, and I was literally having relationships with people behind my wall. The wall was there to protect me, but after a while, it became a thing that isolated me from the love of other people. There was no way for me to destruct that wall myself. It's just I realized at certain point is that I would never trust anyone to remove the wall myself. It just wasn't possible. Behind that wall, the little girl that I was, the one that was able to like unconditionally give herself to people, that was full of love and full of, you know, just such an innocent little girl, she remained. And the yearning for connection was getting bigger and bigger. But the wall remained as well. So I remember once in one of my therapies, like I got to the point where I was deeply hurt by a situation that was happening, and I actually the wall crumbled for a moment, and I realized that the way that this trauma aligned itself was that one day someone will be brave enough to break the wall for me. And through this, now, of course, it required some time for me to navigate this maze. So I constructed this BDSM relationship with my partner, and the certain situations and certain scenarios that were in my head were generally a reconstruction of the family affairs that were at that time. But you see, this is how trauma works. Trauma works in a way where it tries to reconstruct the situations from the past to make them right. And this is a very dangerous territory. Now, if you reconstruct situations from your past that almost destroyed you, and you don't get a different conclusion of the story, this may be re-traumatizing you. That's why I said that BDSM is not a great idea if it's only play, and if you don't know exactly what you're trying to achieve with it. You also need to be aware that other people joining you in your path to, getting healed might not have the same agenda as you. So I realized at one point, um, especially after joining FetLife, is that a lot of people there are reliving their traumas. They're not actually moving anywhere with it. And you might hate me for saying this. It's just I realized that this really wasn't the environment where I felt okay. You see, I never had issues with sexual liberation. So I've went through that in my late teen years. So for me, like sexual liberation and really like living freely my sexuality, it wasn't the thing that I was generally looking for on FetLife. I was rather looking for a community that basically wants to explore sexuality in the form of a way to heal. I unfortunately didn't find that, so I left. The same thing for me happened in polyamory. Is I approached polyamory from a point where I wanted to love more people. I didn't want to only sleep with a lot of people. I didn't want to have shallow, weak connections with people. I want to have really deep, loving relationships with people. But all I found, this may be just for pure fact, I'm living in Ireland, so it might not be something that is happening around the world. I only found offers of sex. This wasn't the thing I was looking for. You have to understand one thing about me. I know exactly what I want. And I've known this because I know myself. So I may be a very disturbing individual for a lot of people. But I think knowing yourself is everything. This is everything. So I moved away from talking about BDSM in public, even though I think I have a lot more to say. But I just got tired of attracting attention in the form of sexual attraction and people approaching me just to, I don't know, people approaching me just to have me as a symbol of their sexual liberation. This is okay, but I'm a therapist. I If I'm talking with someone about their sexuality, I will talk with you about your trauma. I will talk about you I will talk to you about how to use BDSM as a tool of healing. I will talk with you about how to really love more than one person. If we're talking about sexual liberation, we need to call it that way. We cannot call sexual liberation in the form of BDSM and polyamory. We need to call it as it is. So this was the reason why I stopped talking about this. I don't want to be that pretty face that people are going to be like fantasizing about. I want to be a source of your healing. That's all I wanted to be, and that's all I'm still doing. Coming back to my sexual trauma that I used BDSM to heal with, I in the end found a person that was ready to knock down my walls. And what I found underneath them is the deep-seated desire to belong. The deep-seated desire to belong to someone. And this desire, I think every female has. It's a desire to belong. Originally was a desire to belong to my family. Because what happened when my parents betrayed me, I distanced myself from the family itself, so I didn't feel like I was part of that family anymore. So I felt I was part of nothing. I was this black sheep, an individual that didn't belong anywhere and was not part of the family, but didn't have another family. And when I started dating my partner, I also didn't feel like we were a family. I didn't feel like I was part of anything. I didn't feel like I was part of my family. I didn't feel like I was part of his family. I didn't have the courage to create a family with him. So, so at one point, through our play, I rediscovered the part of myself that wanted to belong. And that part, when I actually allowed it to belong to another person, changed everything about me. After I did that, I didn't have to go through the back doors or around to reach that place. So I could simply approach someone I love and desire to belong with them. After that, some things became a bit, they weren't interesting anymore. So after that, I felt like I can just belong without doing the extra work for it. Now, every trauma is different. I'm not saying that if you have these fetishes that involve BDSM or anything like that, or if you're using polyamory as an excuse not to be able to connect with others, or if you're using polyamory to escape from connecting with one person so you can not connect with 10 of them, um, every single person is different. I don't think inherently any of this is bad. So the only way this becomes bad is when it's used for a wrong thing. So polyamory for me is still something that perhaps humanity will be ready for at certain point, but I don't think it's ready for at the moment. What we see in the world at the moment is more and more people not being able to connect with anyone. Polyamory sounds perfect excuse not to connect with anyone ever. I think we all need to really, really work on ourselves and really know ourselves to be able to use things as a tool to get at some higher level. And unfortunately, there's not going to be a general solution for any of this. General solution just does not exist. It's our responsibility of us as every human being to work on ourselves and to literally be able to be responsible for anything we are and feel. And once you are able to accept that responsibility, things become so much easier. You are able to take something that you have and you are able to actually look beyond it and look underneath and look above it. And sexuality is always going to be a subject dear to me. It is dear to me because I feel where it's the place where biggest healing can be achieved, but also it's the place where the biggest trauma can fester and become worse. So do I still engage in BDSM activities? Not that much. I got to the point where for me sexuality is becoming something super sacred. It is becoming something so pure. It's becoming a source of enlightenment. It's becoming a source of connection that is almost sacred with another human being or with yourself, even if you're alone. I don't feel violence for me does the trick anymore. I don't feel I need to submit to feel connection anymore. I don't feel like there's walls there anymore for someone else to knock down to get to me. And it is, for the last year, it has been very confusing because, like, I've never felt this way before. I always felt like sexuality is something I need to crawl through. I need to crawl through a field of guilt and shame, and I need to renounce my strength in order to be loved. There was a lot of these negative traits that all of a sudden disappeared. That's why I always say that sexual energy is remarkable. So my reconnection to the need to belong actually deleted everything. And it is I think for my partner it's even worse now because I he actually got a completely new partner. But you see, this is the beauty of self-development. After a while, if you're dating someone who is sincerely working on themselves, it's it's like every 10 years you have a new girlfriend. And for some people that can be very disturbing, but I think I picked a partner and he picked me for a reason. And we always develop, we always evolve. And yeah, so that's where I am at the moment. And I've been working with a lot of people that actually have tons of sexual guilt and trauma. And it is something that I'm becoming super, super passionate about. I feel like I can give a lot because I have experienced a lot. And if you're interested in this, please give me a shout, and hopefully we can discover your base emotion, and hopefully we can knock down some walls for you too. Anyhow, guys, super happy to be here. I'm super excited about this channel. I know my progress has been so slow, but you see, like, when you're going through like a period of change and you are rediscovering yourself as a person, sometimes it's extremely hard to know exactly what you want to do. And but I'm certain now that this channel is going to be all about combining psychology with spirituality, and I hope you guys enjoy that. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, please leave them in comment. And if you like the video, and if you want to tell me something, please do. And thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.